Welcome to today's class. So today we are going to begin with your next chapter, chapter 3, laws of motion. So here in this chapter you will study about the concept of force, the concept of inertia. Again, you will be looking into, as the name suggests, the Newton's laws of motion. So there are three laws of motion, the first law, second and the third law. So we will be studying about all those laws of motion. Again, you will study about the concept of momentum. Okay, again you will study these concepts when you are studying about the laws of motion. So first, let's have a look into force. So what is force? So uh, definition wise, we don't know what is force as of now, right? But we know the implications of force. So if I want to change, okay, suppose this pen is lying at rest on my palm right now. So if I want to change its position right now, what I need to do, I just need to apply a force so that it will start rolling. Again, if it was rolling, okay, if it was rolling, if I apply a force now, okay, I can bring it to rest. So your force, it can bring a body in motion, it can bring a body into rest. Okay, like if a body is moving, it can be brought to rest, and if a body is at rest, it can be brought into motion. So your force, it affects the motion of an object or a body. Again, that is one implication of your force. Again, second one, if you apply force, again think that you are having an eraser, okay, which is made up of rubber, right? So if you press that eraser, so think that you are having the eraser, and if you are pressing it, that means you are applying a force actually, right? So if you press, then what happens? You will see that there will be a change in its shape. So your force, it can cause change in shape. So if you take a nail and if you hit on it using a hammer, you can see that it getting flattened. Okay, copper rod can be flattened. So again, the force, it can cause a change in its shape. Again, dimensions can be changed. Okay, if you take a rubber band and if you apply a force, you know that it elongates. So again, there is a change in its length or dimension. So again, when I am saying, okay, change in dimension, it refers to those bodies which are non-rigid. So rigid bodies are those bodies which do not undergo any deformation when forces are applied on it. Okay, when I say deformation, any change happening to its shape, size, or something like that. So in the case of rigid bodies, okay, you know that there are particles. So if I consider this body, okay, there are particles, or you call it molecules, and it is said that in the case of your rigid body, even though you apply some forces, this particular intermolecular distance or the interspacing between any two particles or any two molecules, it won't get changed. But in the case of your non-rigid bodies, it will start to change. Actually, this is again a practical, okay, this is again a idealized condition. Again, it is not possible in practical cases. So in practical cases, there are deformities or changes happening to the dimension. But in physics, in some of the cases, like in the case of a hard steel rod, we are considering it to be, okay, a rigid body, and we are applying some laws which you will study in the higher classes. So here I am referring to non-rigid bodies. Okay. So coming to our topic, that is force. So your force, it can affect the motion. Again, it can cause any change in the size or the shape. So right now I can now make a proper definition for the force, right? Okay, so let's see what that definition is. Force, a force is that physical cause which changes or tends to change either the size or shape or the state of rest or motion of the body. So whatever has been said before, now we are making into a form of definition. So a force is that physical cause, a particular cause which can either change the uh, state of rest or motion or the size or the shape of a body. So that is your force. Now you can classify your force into two types based on the, okay, force. You can classify it into two. So one is the contact force, and the second one the non-contact force. So contact and non-contact. So when I say contact, or on seeing the term contact here, you might have got an idea right now. So contact forces you can experience, and they can be produced when there is a physical contact between the objects. Suppose in the case of your look, think that a ball, it is now rolling over a surface, okay, a rough surface. So of course, if you, okay, if I kick the ball, okay, if I kick the ball from here, the ball will starts to move initially with a higher speed or velocity, but after some time you could see that the ball getting slow down, okay, and finally it comes to rest. Again, you know the reason why the ball is getting or coming to rest finally, because there is a force of friction acting. Okay, frictional force is there between this particular surface and the ball. So the frictional force, it opposes the motion. So if the ball is moving in this particular direction, there is a frictional force acting in the opposite direction. So initially when you are kicking the ball, there is a larger applied force. I can say that applied force is larger compared with your frictional force. So even when the ball was at rest, there was a frictional force. Okay. So at that time, the frictional force, since it was greater, the ball was at rest. Or I can say there was a force of gravity. Okay, I'm not taking that. I'm only taking considering frictional force right now. So because of that particular force, which was opposing this applied force, which was larger, okay, the body remained at rest. But when I kicked, the applied force is now larger compared to any other forces. Now the ball started to move, but after some time, okay, when it started to move, the frictional force again it became operational. So your frictional force, it now tries to bring your body to rest. Okay, and finally, as it moves larger distance, its speed will gradually get decreased because friction it is increasing on the other side. And finally, the ball stops. Okay, what I'm trying to say here is a contact force. So your frictional force, it's a type of contact force because there is a physical contact between the objects involved. So here ball and the surface. So there is a contact in between them. So such type of forces you call it as the contact force. And then again, then you can ask me, so what is this non-contact? So there is no contact in between the objects involved. So think about the case of a magnet. Okay, so you are having a magnet, north and south. So if north and south are brought together, they will get attracted. But what if north and north are brought together? So that there is a force of repulsion. So in the case of attraction or repulsion, again the force between the poles, between north and south, or between north and north, or between south and south, it is nothing but the magnetic force. So you can feel that force. Okay, if you are having a north pole magnet on your left hand and a south pole magnet on your right hand, if you bring them closer, there is a force acting between them which is trying to get them attracted. Okay, and if both these magnets are north pole, again you know that there is a force of repulsion. So actually, is there any contact happening between them? Okay, there is no physical contact. Okay, on getting attracted there is a physical contact, but still, okay, just before that if you observe, there is no physical contact involved. So the magnetic force, it is a type of non-contact force. And again another example which we studied, right, the force of gravity, or I can say gravitational force. So all the bodies or all the particles on this earth, they are always attracted towards the center of the earth, and they are getting attracted towards the earth. And is there any contact between the earth and that particular object? Okay, it finally reaches the earth, but it attracts that particular body with a gravitational force or the force of gravity, or I called it that day as the weight, just like in the case of your magnetic force. So that particular magnetic force, it attracts those those dissimilar poles, and it repels those similar poles. Okay, so that is your non-contact force is all about. So whenever there is a physical contact, you put it under the category of contact force. And whenever there is no physical contact involved, you take it as non-contact force. So one such example of a contact force was the frictional force. Now there are more examples to point out. So force. So whenever there is a physical contact, you can call your force as a contact force. And now more examples. Frictional force, as I said earlier. Now you know why frictional force is a contact force. Now coming to normal reaction force. Okay, so normal reaction force when it arises. So consider a case. Okay, so there is a table and a book is placed on this particular table. Now you know the book which you took here, it had a particular weight. Okay, so when I say weight, W is equal to m into g. So mass into acceleration due to gravity. I'm not saying about mass, I'm considering weight. Okay, because this particular object, though it is on the table, now it is getting attracted towards the earth because the earth attracts it. So I can call it as my gravitational force. So force of gravity, it is acting in the downward direction. But is it going down? Is that book moving down to the earth? So something is holding, okay, the book there. Or I can say that this particular force or weight, it is balanced by some other force. Okay, if it should be balanced, so your weight is acting in the downward direction. So if it has to be balanced here, there should be a force acting the equal amount in the opposite direction. So think that W is equal to 10 here. Then there should be a force of the same magnitude acting in the upward direction. It is having again magnitude 10. Whatever be that force, it should be 10. It should have the magnitude 10. I am not specifying any unit, just take magnitude as 10. But in the opposite direction. Because if you want to hold this object, okay, it was moving down. So if I want to hold it at a particular position, I need to apply an equal force. You know, if in the tug of war, okay, initially when the people they are, okay, what I will say, okay, so from the one side they are trying to get it towards their side, from the other side they are trying to get it towards their side. So it remains initially okay, so now you call this particular force as the normal reaction force. Normal force or normal reaction force. Because it is acting perpendicular to the surface inward. Okay, so you call it as the normal force. Again, normal reaction force. So again, you will study Newton's third law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. For this particular action, which is the weight which is acting downward, there is an equal reaction in the opposite direction. So that is your reactional force. It is because of this particular action that reaction is happening in the upward direction. Again, the force of tension. So you have studied about this tension force, right? Okay, a body is suspended from a rigid surface. So there is a thread or a, let's say, a string. So it is attached with a stone or a metallic bob, somewhat like that. So this is particular end is fixed. So you know that because of the weight of this particular bob or the stone, there is a force which is acting in the downward direction. You know that is nothing but its weight. Okay. So this weight, it is acting in the downward direction. And now the string is getting stretched. This particular string, it is getting stretched. And in order to oppose this, okay, movement in the downward direction, now the string, it will, okay, have a force acting in the opposite direction which will pull it upwards. So, and you call that particular force, okay, and magnitude, they are equal but opposite in direction, and that force you call it as the force of tension. Okay, so that is your force of tension. Force of tension. Okay, now coming to your restoring force. Okay, your restoring force, this mainly happens in the case of spring. So you know, okay, think that your spring, so this is a spring and one end of it is fixed. So that means this particular end, it is fixed. And this is your free end. You know that if you pull the string, okay, so towards where I am standing, if I am pulling the spring, it will now get stretched or elongated, right? And I call it as a displacement. There is a change happening to its length right now. So I can say there is a displacement happening. So I applied a force in the, okay, I pulled. That means my applied force is towards the left side. Okay, so this particular spring, it always have a tendency to remain how it was before. Okay, so what this spring will do is that it will try to, okay, oppose this particular applied force by its restoring force. Okay, so if there is a force acting in this particular direction, there is a force by the spring, okay, towards the uh, exactly opposite to the direction in which the displacement happened. So it was stretching towards the left. Okay, so the restoring force, it was acting in the right direction. So restoring force. So an opposing force. So just like your elastics. Okay, so in the elastic, if you stretch it, initially it will get elongated, but once you leave the force, it will come back to how it was before. Just like that, the spring also here shows a tendency to be in a condition how it was before. So the force which it itself applies to go against this applied force, you call it as the restoring force. Again, depending upon the magnitude of the applied force or the restoring force, the the displacement it will occur. And it is again said that the restoring force, okay, if I am taking it as F, okay, Fr, let's say restoring force Fr, it is directly proportional to the displacement. Okay, your restoring force, it is directly proportional to the displacement. Again, this negative, the reason is that your displacement is happening when you're stretching it is happening in this particular direction, that means towards left, and your restoring force, it is acting in the right direction. So force is a vector and your displacement is also a vector, so the negative. Since both are in opposite direction, you are using the symbol negative. So now instead of pulling the spring, if I push the spring, okay, towards the fixed end, okay, so I am pulling it towards the fixed end. Now you know that the applied force is in the right direction. So your applied force, it is acting in the right direction. So your restoring force, the force which acts against the applied force, so it will be in the left direction. So your restoring force, and it is exactly against the direction in which the displacement happened. So it was getting compressed or contracted. So displacement was again displacement vector, the direction of displacement, it happened in the direction of the applied force. So again, F proportional to minus x. And in order to remove this proportionality, you will use the constant K. And this K is called as the spring constant. Okay, spring constant. So that is all about your contact force. Now let's look into more type of the non-contact force. So non-contact force. So whenever there is no physical contact, you put it under the category of non-contact force. So your non-contact force, it includes, as I said, the magnetic force. So it can be again attractive or repulsive, right? So attractive or repulsive. So that is your magnetic force. Again, the second one, the gravitational force. Gravitational force. Again, can your gravitational force be repulsive? No, right? So your gravitational force, it is always attractive, because Earth, by its property of mass, so all the objects are getting attracted towards it. Okay, so you can call it as the attractive. So you call it attractive property of gravitational force. So I am not explaining much about your gravitational force. And again, your electrostatic force. Electrostatic force. So you have studied about electrostatic forces. Okay, when electric charges. So here you said about magnetic poles. So just like that, here you will deal with electric charges like positive and negative. So the force between a positive charge and a negative charge, or between two positive charges, or between two negative charges. You studied it in your 8th class, right? So whenever a comb, okay, so uh, after rubbing with the hair, if you are showing, or if you are bringing the comb nearby a small bit of paper, the paper it gets attracted. So again, because both of them carried opposite charges, so they were getting attracted together. So again, the force that existed between them, or that force of attraction there, okay, so when the paper is getting attracted towards the comb, I can say that there was a force of attraction without any physical contact. These forces, whether it is a magnetic force or gravitational force or electrostatic force, it is saying that these particular force, they are inversely proportional to r square. So r, it is the distance between those objects. So when I explained about two masses m1 m2, I said that r is the distance between their centers, the centers of their masses. So in the case of your charges, in the case of electrostatic force, you consider charges. So the distance between the charges again. Again, magnetic force also the same thing, the distance between. So what I'm trying to say is that in the case of the magnet, if you take, okay, so if you move the magnet to a distance, you know, the force will be getting decreased. But if you bring it closer, the force it increases.
Force and laws of motion. Learning about various type of forces. When we want to open the door, we have to push the door handle. And when we want to close the door, we have to pull the door handle with our hand. This means that to move a body or an object, it has either to be pushed or pulled. A push or pull on a body or object is called force. Forces are used in our everyday actions like pushing, pulling, lifting, stretching, and pressing. Study the effect of force. A force can move a stationary body. For example, the force of an engine can move a stationary car. A force can stop a moving body. For example, the force of brakes can stop a moving car. A force can change the speed of a moving body. For example, suppose we are moving on a bicycle at a certain speed. Now, if someone pushes the moving bicycle from behind, then the speed of the bicycle increases and it will move faster. On the other hand, if someone pulls the moving bicycle from behind, then the speed of the bicycle decreases and it will move slower. Thus, a push or a pull can change the speed of a moving bicycle. A force can change the direction of a moving body. For example, in the game of carom, when we take a rebound, then the direction of a striker changes. This is because the edge of the carom board exerts a force on the striker. The force can change the shape and size of a body. For example, if we take a light spring and pull it at both the ends with our hands, then the shape and size of the spring changes. We will now discuss various types of forces. If the resultant of all forces acting on a body is zero, the forces are called balanced forces. If the resultant of all the forces acting on a body is not zero, the forces are called unbalanced forces. Balanced and unbalanced forces. Shows a wooden block on a horizontal table. Two strings, X and Y, are tied to the opposite faces of the block as shown. If we apply a force by pulling the string X, the block begins to move to the right. Similarly, if we pull the string Y, the block moves to the left. But if the block is pulled from both the sides with equal forces, the block will not move. Such forces are called balanced forces and do not change the state of rest or of motion of an object. Now, let us consider a situation in which two opposite forces of different magnitudes pull the block. In this case, the block would begin to move in the direction of a greater force. Thus, the two forces are not balanced and the unbalanced force acts in the direction of the block moves. This suggests that unbalanced force acting on an object brings it in motion. What happens when a person tries to push a box on a rough floor? If he pushes the box with a small force, the box does not move because of friction acting in directions opposite to the push. This friction force arises between two surfaces in contact, in this case, between the bottom of the box and the floor's rough surface. It balances the pushing force and therefore the box does not move. The person pushes the box harder, but the box still does not move. This is because the friction force still balances the pushing force. If the person pushes the box harder still, the pushing force becomes bigger than the friction force. Therefore, there it's an unbalanced force, so the box starts moving. First law of motion. By observing the motion of objects on an inclined plane, Galileo deduced that objects move with a constant speed when no force acts on them. He observed that when a marble rolls down on an inclined plane, its velocity increases. The marble falls under the unbalanced force of gravity as it rolls down and attains a definite velocity by the time it reaches the bottom. Its velocity decreases when it climbs up, shows a marble resting on an ideal frictionless plane inclined on both sides. Galileo argued that when a marble is released from left, it would roll down the slope and go up on the opposite side of the same height from which it was released. If the inclination of the plane on both the sides are equal, then the marble will climb the same distance that it has covered while rolling down. If the angle of inclination of the right side plane were gradually decreased, then the marble would travel further distance till it reaches the original height. If the right side plane were ultimately made horizontal, that is, the slope is reduced to zero, the marble would continue to travel forever, trying to reach the same height that it was released from. The unbalanced forces on the marble in this case is zero. It thus suggests that an unbalanced force is required to change the motion of a marble, but no net force is needed to sustain the uniform motion of the marble. Newton's first law of motion. A body at rest will remain at rest, and a body in motion will continue in motion in a straight line with uniform speed unless it is compelled by an external force to change its state of rest or of uniform motion. The tendency of a body to remain at rest or, if moving, to continue moving in a straight line is called inertia. Newton's first law recognizes that every body has some inertia. Inertia is that property of a body due to which it resists a change in its state of rest or of uniform motion. Law of inertia can be explained on the basis of certain experiences that we come across while traveling in a motor car. We tend to remain at rest with respect to the seat until the driver applies a braking force to stop the motor car. With the application of brakes, the car slows down, but our body tends to continue in the same state of motion because of its inertia. Sudden application of brake may thus cause injury to us by impact or collision with the panels in front. Safety belts are worn to prevent such accidents. Safety belts exert a force on our body to make the forward motion slower. An opposite experience is encountered when we are standing in a bus and the bus begins to move suddenly. Now we tend to fall backwards. This is because the sudden start of the bus brings motion to the bus as well as our feet in contact with the floor of the bus. But the rest of our body opposes this motion because of its inertia. When a motor car makes a sharp turn at a high speed, we tend to get thrown on one side. This can again be explained on the basis of the law of inertia. When an unbalanced force is applied by the engine to change the direction of motion of the motor car, we slip on one side of the seat due to the inertia of our body. Activity. We take a glass tumbler and place a thick square card on its mouth. A coin is then placed above this card in the middle. Let us flick the card hard with our fingers. On flicking, the card moves away, but the coin drops into the glass tumbler. Let me explain how it happened. Initially, both the card and the coin are in a state of rest. Now, when we hit the card with our fingers, a force acts on the card and changes its state of rest to that of motion. Due to this, the card moves away from the mouth of the glass tumbler. A force of a flick, however, does not act on the coin, continue to be in the state of rest due to its inertia. And when the card on which the coin has been placed moves away, the coin falls into the glass tumbler because it prefers to maintain its state of rest due to inertia. Inertia and mass. Resistance is offered by an object to change its state of motion. If it is at rest, it tends to remain at rest. If it is moving, it tends to keep moving. This property of an object is called its inertia. All bodies do not have the same inertia. We know that it's easier to push an empty box than a box full of books. Clearly, heavier or more massive objects offer larger inertia. Quantitatively, the inertia of an object is measured by its mass. We may thus relate inertia and mass as follows. Inertia is the natural tendency of an object to resist a change in its state of motion or of rest. The mass of an object is a measure of its inertia. Summary. First law of motion. An object continues to be in a state of rest or of uniform motion along a straight line unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. The natural tendency of objects to resist a change in their state of rest or of uniform motion is called inertia. The mass of an object is a measure of its inertia. Its SI unit is kilogram. Force of friction always opposes motion of objects. That is all in this topic.